And welcome back to another episode of Patriots of the American Republic. I am your host, Carlos, and I am coming at you with some interesting information, some good topics as usual. So let's go ahead and dive into it, right? It's pretty interesting. Since the start of this administration, we saw prices on gas, food, and other commodities increase month over month. As we covered in our previous segment regarding fake news and Biden's economy, the White House has lied about the direction the economy was going in, and the leftist media covered for them. We were told the issue was just transitory, and after that lie could no longer be sold to the American people, they quickly pivoted to the usual blame game. They went from C-19 to Trump's tax cuts to greedy corporations, and finally, they ended on the Putin's price hike and his invasion of Ukraine, right? All of those were contributed to the rising gas prices, even though gas prices had started to go up during the beginning of the administration before the invasion on Ukraine. So I think as time progressed, people realized the lie was no longer effective, and the more times they shifted the argument, the more the people realized that, wait a minute, that doesn't seem accurate, because prices started going up last year, way before the invasion took place. So I think they really boxed themselves into a corner. So I can't say for sure if maybe one or all of those issues really contributed, but we can definitely see what took place in the transition from the previous administration to the current administration. We saw that increase begin to ascend, right? And so I thought that was pretty interesting. One of the things that again, I don't know if it's a 100% impact, but it definitely has an impact, is the canceling of the Keystone Pipeline, which President Biden signed an executive order canceling the Keystone Pipeline. Again, I've seen some reports saying, well, that doesn't have as much of an impact because it wasn't functioning and so on and so forth. Regardless of the case, we were energy independent in 2019, and now we're not. We're energy dependent. And that took place during the start of this administration. So again, it's just the way things are looking, and it's pretty obvious now, almost 2 years into this administration, what's going on. The sad part about this entire mess is that they just don't seem to care right at this juncture. Instead of focusing on helping to make cost of living more affordable and bringing inflation down for 100% of Americans, they choose to focus on other things. They choose to focus on abortion as being equally important as inflation, trans rights as equally important as inflation, and so on and so forth. So what I want to do is I want to dig into some of these subject matters that we're talking about here, and kind of expand on both the hypocrisy of the left, obviously, and show some evidence that really they just don't really care about the American people. And thus, if they don't care about the American people, then they must be doing this on purpose. So let's go ahead and get into it. So what I want to do is I want to go ahead and show you just a recap montage of how this administration lied to us and told us that this was all just transitory, right? So let's go ahead and play that.
I really doubt that we're going to see an inflationary cycle.
Most economic analysts have believed that it will have a temporary or transitory impact.
The faster than expected increase in some of those prices is actually a good sign.
The overwhelming consensus is going to pop up a little bit and then go back down. No one's talking about this great,
This is something that will settle down.
Transitory.
And the data shows that most of the price increases we've seen were expected and are expected to be temporary. There's nobody suggesting there's unchecked inflation on the way. It's highly unlikely that's going to be long-term inflation that's going to get out of hand. I don't know anybody who's worried about inflation.
Over the last couple of months, we actually saw it trended downward.
President Biden's chief of staff, Ron Klain, enthusiastically retweeted an economist who had said in part most of the economic problems we're facing, inflation, supply chains, et cetera, are high-class problems.
What is the Granholm plan to increase oil production in America?
Oh my God, that is hilarious. Well, the number one thing that the president can do is help get COVID under control. That we know is the root cause of inflation.
President Biden this afternoon saying he thinks we're at the peak of the crisis right now and that lower prices are on the way.
The inflation has everything to do with the supply chain. Make no mistake, inflation is largely the fault of Putin. I'm going to do everything I can.
So there you have it. Again, another recap montage. We played this in one of our previous episodes, but I thought it was important because here we are. We're almost at the end of 2022, and all of those videos were done in 2021. So we can see at this juncture, right, where they've misled, misinformed, misdirected, and blatantly lied to us. And that's what I want to expose, because here's the truth and the reality of it. You've got the White House saying multiple lies, but and that's expected from them, right? Because nobody's going to say, you know what, I messed up. Let me correct it, and so on and so forth. It would be nice to get that from these leaders, but that doesn't happen on a political level. I don't think I've ever heard that before, to be quite honest with you. Maybe at some point, maybe with honest Abraham Lincoln or George Washington possibly, but at this juncture, I don't expect to see that type of correction. But what I stand on it is the fact that the media is not pushing back. The media is not showcasing these folks. In actuality, the leftist media is covering for them, and we'll get into that a little bit more further down in the segment. But what I want to do is I want to play this second video just to show how much of a deception this current administration is really working on. We just took you through how they basically said that it was inflation, there was no inflation was just transitory, and the blame shifting, right? So we laid out our basis here, right? So now what I want to do is I want to take you, it was July of this year, if I'm not mistaken, and what the president did was, again, what he did was he said that there was zero inflation. The interesting part, and again, I think anybody with a brain, right, that functions would know that that's not true. What he was doing and what he failed to mention was that it was a month over month. So comparison from last month to this month is 0%, but that's nothing to really be excited about or celebrating. We were still at a high of about 8-9% inflation rate. So yeah, maybe it didn't go up for a month. Wow, great. We're still super high. We're still at a 40-year high. But listen to how he expresses it, because I'd rather you hear it from the horse's mouth.
Before I begin today, I want to say a word about the news that came out today relative to the economy. Actually, I just want to say a number: 0. Today, we received news that our economy had 0% inflation in the month of July. 0%. Here's what that means. While the price of some things went up last month, the price of other things went down by the same amount. The result, 0 inflation last month. The people were still hurting, but 0 inflation last month. Economists look at a measure of inflation that ignores food and energy prices, and they call it core inflation. That's about the lowest amount in several months. When you couple that with last week.
So again, he claims that there's 0 inflation, and it's really a very deceptive way of showcasing the results, right? Obviously, this video came out in August, but he's talking about July results, and he's comparing July results to June. It's a month-over-month comparison, which, if we look at it from one month to the next, it's misguided, because there was no increase. The fact is that inflation is still high. So it's really no relief to the people that are struggling. And the fact that he says it, and you have the leftist media covering for him, telling him that he's right, and so on and so forth, is absolutely disgusting, right? The media is supposed to be there to call this guy out and do what I'm doing right now, essentially. Calling him out for his falsehood, calling him out for the high inflation, the terrible economy. Look, every single poll right about now regarding the midterms has the number one focus or the number one concern of Americans as the economy. Why? Because that affects 100% of the population. We're going to go ahead and get into the details or the breakdown of that focus in a little bit. But I want us to stay focused on what is going on here, and it's the obvious lies. The economy, ladies and gentlemen, is not strong. The economy is struggling. The economy is trending downward, right? Inflation is high. Cost of living is high. Here's the falsehood. They're going to tell you wages are high or wages are up and so on and so forth. Well, that could be up, but does it really help if the cost of living, like if you get a 3% raise at your job, which is average, right? If your inflation is about 8-9%, how's the 3% working for you? You know what I mean? So, again, there's things that are going on that I don't understand how our media can sleep at night and call themselves professionals while covering for this inept administration. But to further add on insult to injury, this came out last month where Biden claims that the economy was strong as hell. Let's take a look.
Just one more economic one. Are you concerned about the strength of the dollar right now?
I'm not concerned about the strength of the dollar. I'm concerned about the rest of the world. Does that make sense?
Can you explain that?
Yes. Our economy is strong as hell. The internal. Inflation is worldwide. Worse off everywhere else in the United States. So the problem is the lack of economic growth and sound policy in other countries, not so much ours. And that's how worldwide inflation has consequences.
You're giving a speech next over here.
So first of all, I want to say that I don't really care about the rest of the world. You are not elected president of the world. You're elected president of the United States. And I say elected loosely, right? And I don't mean to say that the rest of the world can burn in hell and I don't care if it falls. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is the focus is my home country. He is the leader, the supposed leader of this country, not the world. If inflation is high in the UK, if inflation is high in China, if inflation is high in whatever other country it is, so be it. It sucks for them, and we can help out as much as we can. My primary focus is inflation high in my country? Are my fellow Americans struggling? That is what his job is, to fix and resolve, and actually he's contributed to it, and he's caused it. So for him to sit there and say that he's not worried, or he's more worried about the world than he is the United States, is appalling. It's a slap in the face to every single person, every single leader that has had that position prior to him, to be quite honest with you. And it's absolutely disgusting that the media allows him to get away with it. No, the economy is not strong as hell, old man Biden. It is struggling. It is high. It is tough. And you're sitting there and you're eating your ice cream, and it's just the whole perception is just bad. This man should be retired, ladies and gentlemen. Let's be real. This man should have never have gone into. Keep in mind that he was the last person to jump in, the last Democrat to jump in to run back in at the end of 2019. By all intents and purposes, he went in way too late in normal political standards. But because the rest of the candidates couldn't hold a flame to Donald Trump, they needed somebody to come in and have recognition, have familiarity with the people, and have that connection to Obama in order for their plan to actually work and take out Trump, right? So let's be real. This man should be retired. And some people say, well, you should feel bad and you shouldn't be playing the gaffes and so on and so forth. That's ageist or whatever the case. Listen, I don't feel bad because he chose to do it. Whoever came to him and said, hey, look, go for president. This is what we'll give you, et cetera, whatever deal, mysterious deal they worked behind the curtains, he accepted. And so did his family. So no, I don't feel bad for him. Okay? Let's just be real. But what else is he lying to us about? Well, just a couple of days ago, he actually claimed that he has brought down the price of gas from $5 when he took office. No, gas was not $5 when he took office. It was actually like mid to low $2, depending on what area you were. But let's go about the national average was right around $2 and change, right? So for him to say that he brought it down for $5 is absolutely false. It was actually $5 a couple of months ago in the year of 2020, right? It hit the national average. So he's blatantly lying. So, but let's see what he says.
Today, the most common price of gas in America is $3.39, down from over $5 when I took office.
But those numbers are fiction. When the president made his speech yesterday, the average price for gas in the country was $3.76, not $3.39. And as for the price when he took office, for the week ending January 25th, 2021, gas averaged $2.39 a gallon, not more than $5. If you would like to submit a question to us, just go to 10news.com and click on Fact or Fiction.
So let's start with the fact that I'm shocked that ABC actually did this. ABC obviously is a leftist news organization, and I think what happens is the lie is so obviously recent and blatant that they have no choice but to come out with the truth, right? Because if they cover that lie, they're going to be shot even more than what they are as far as their credibility goes, right? So here we've got Biden obviously telling a blatant lie, and again, is he lying on purpose, or is it dementia kicking in? You know, no one can tell at this point. But the reality is that it's truthful what he just finished saying. And I'm glad that this person called it out. And not only did they call out, they actually gave the numbers, the actual numbers, as to what was happening. So yes, that's not true, Mr. Biden. Gas was not $5 when you took office. That's very false of you, and you shouldn't be lying to the American people that way. The American people deserve better, to be quite honest with you. We deserve better from our leaders in all stages. And we should not be accepting this from any political leader from any political party. But let's move on. Here's what I would like to see Biden focus in on. We know that gas prices are high because of obviously supply and demand, right? We're not producing our own oil, like I said, to the extent that we need to in order for us to be energy independent, right? So instead of enacting the policies that took place in 2019, right, they're so anti-Trump, they hate Trump so much that they refuse to implement his policies, regardless of how well that they worked, that what they're doing is they've attempted on several occasions to go to outside sources, right? They've gone to Iran, they've gone to Saudi Arabia, they've gone to Venezuela, they've gone to dictators, right? Who have these human right violations. Remember, the reason why we're in a proxy war with Ukraine is because of how bad Vladimir Putin is, and so on and so forth. And by no means is Vladimir Putin a saint. Russia's hands, their dirty hands are well seated within Cuban history. And obviously look at Cuba where it's at now. So I have my own issues with Russia. So I don't support Russia at all. But to be quite honest with you, I'm tired of the lies and the facade that the leftists and this administration does in claiming that Vladimir Putin is so bad that we can't do any type of business with him whatsoever. But yet we'll turn around and do business or try to do business with people like Maduro in Venezuela and the Ayatollahs in Iran that constantly call for the death of Israel and the United States. I think it's absolutely atrocious that they continue to do that. But anyhow, what happens is he goes out and tries to do this. They're turning him down left and right. They don't want to deal with him, right? Based on some of the things that are happening. And so what has he done as a last result? He's tried to tap in to our reserves. We reported this in one of our previous episodes. Reuters actually wrote a report a couple of months ago about how Biden was tapping into our strategic reserves. And within that report, they actually said how he was selling some of those reserves to other countries. Some of them were neighboring countries, but in one case, it was to China. Why on God's green earth would you sell to China? It's our geopolitical enemy. Their economy it rivals ours. They've made it known that they are looking to supersede us as far as the economic power, but not just financially, also militarily. So it makes no sense to me why you would be helping the Chinese government in any capabilities whatsoever, in any function, in any manner whatsoever. And I said this, I'm not sure if I said this publicly in an episode or when I was a guest at somebody else's, but I said, listen, if come October, policies don't change, price of gas is going to go back up again. So what has happened? Biden has gone right back into tapping those reserves once again. And so it's depleting, and it's putting us in a very, very serious situation. As a matter of fact, Tucker Carlson the other night, he actually spoke on our reserves, including diesel, and how our report shows that we are very, very close to being in a lot of trouble. So let's go ahead and take a look at this real quick.
This country is about to run out of diesel fuel. According to data from the Energy Information Administration, by the Monday of Thanksgiving week, that's 25 days from now, there will be no more diesel. So what's going to happen then? Well, everything will stop. That means trucks and trains and barges all unable to move. Farm equipment will shut down. There will be no deliveries because there will be no trucks. There will be no diesel generators. And then inevitably our economy will crash because everything runs on diesel fuel. Not on solar panels, not on wind farms, on diesel fuel. Diesel is not a negotiable commodity. You have to have diesel. So what happens when we don't have it? Well, yesterday, Fox's Jackie Heinrich, apparently alone in the White House press corps, asked the White House spokesman, John Kirby, that very question. What's the plan here? We're running out of diesel. John Kirby, standing at the podium, representing the White House, the President of the United States, the administration, the largest organization in human history, the executive branch of government, had no answer. But don't worry, he said. We will be exporting plenty of energy to Europe to help fight that progressive crusade in Ukraine. Watch.
What are we doing to increase the supply of diesel, given that the Energy Information Administration said as of October 14th, the U.S. only had about a 25-day supply? You have the Northeast and New York already rationing home heating oil. What are we doing to prepare for the winter and to ramp up supply of diesel?
I'll take the question on the diesel because I just don't have the data on that in front of me. So let me take that and we'll get back to you on that. But writ large, the president has been working very, very hard to make sure that we're that not only are we ready for fluctuations that could come, and of course the prices are going down, and we think that's important, but that we are also doing what we can to help our European friends and partners who are also going to be facing a long, cold winter. We have doubled our commitment. The commitment he made in March for natural gas exports to Europe, we've doubled that commitment in terms of actual, getting things over there, getting natural gas over there. And we are working with foreign suppliers of natural gas and oil to see if we can't help our European partners diversify their own storage and supplies.
So just pause and savor the irony here just for a moment, because now everything is irony. They've been telling you for decades, since Al Gore left the White House, that the single greatest threat to the world was warming. And because of their efforts to fight warming, you are in danger of freezing. And unlike warming, freezing actually kills people, a lot of people every year. And it will kill people in the West this year thanks to their efforts to fight warming. Okay.
Again, it makes no sense to me that we have issues going on in our country and we're focused on other countries. That makes no sense to me. Think about it in your own home. Let's simplify it. Let's simplify it. Again, you may love your neighbor, everything like that, and you may be there to help every once in a while and in a reasonable manner. But if you yourself are struggling, it becomes very difficult for you to help anybody else. Our diesel is about to be depleted by Thanksgiving, and we're focused on still helping our European countries, Ukraine, and so on and so forth. It makes no sense. If there were a surplus of diesel and we would not be in danger of it, okay, it is whatever. We can have a discussion. We can have a debate about it. It is what it is. But at this current juncture, listen, it just doesn't make sense to me. It feels like these people are purposely weakening us and allowing for those sharks that are circling around the water to get us, when we're at our weakest. I mean, my gosh, if right now we decided, if God forbid, Russia does decide to go nuclear, right? Or China decides to attack, and we've made it known that we will defend Taiwan, how the heck are we going to do anything? What if they decide to attack us? Are we going to be able to actually fend off an attack from the Chinese? I don't think so. I'm sorry. I love my country. And obviously, I think I would pick up arms to defend it. I shouldn't say I think. I know I would, right? But that's not what we're talking about. Why would we even put ourselves in that position, right? The only reason a predator would attack you is when you're weak. Predators don't attack strong animals. They go for the weaker ones first, right? Anyhow, so you would think that this president would be focused on trying to tackle these issues, right? This is such an important issue that this speaker should have had the answers ready available. I mean, we can show you multiple times of not only the White House secretary, press secretary, both the previous one and the current one, not being able to answer questions at the moment, and big questions, not like out of the air questions. These are questions that are impacting the American people in a big manner. So it's either these people are incompetent or they're doing it on purpose, and I've said that in previous segments. But moving forward, so reported a couple of months ago that Joe Biden went to Saudi Arabia, and we just mentioned that a little while ago, and it's rumored that he begged the Saudis to produce more oil. The Saudis declined it, and according to the Saudis, they said that the Biden administration begged them not to inform the public until after the midterms. Why? Because right now the economy is on everybody's mind. They want to hide the truth. They want your vote so they can maintain political power. Because remember, after this, they don't really care again until 2024, right? So right now, listen, don't tell anybody that you're not going to produce any more oil. As a matter of fact, you said you were going to decrease oil. Please don't say that until after the midterms, because our political careers depend on it. That's so deceitful. And any Democrat listening to that should be ashamed of their political party. I know I would be if those were the Republicans doing that. I want truth. I demand truth and honesty from our political leaders. And we need to stop pussyfooting on the fact that these people lie and we get away with it, and they get away with it because, oh, well, that's just the norm. Politicians lie. When are we going to hold these politicians accountable? When are we going to change the status quo of allowing these people to lie to us left and right, and we continue to elect them? We need change, and we need to start with change with how we vote. But let's listen in on this video.
While inflation still runs at 40-year highs in the States, Biden has now decided to pick a fight with Saudi Arabia, all because he didn't get what he wanted. In July this year, to great fanfare, the president travelled to the Middle East to meet the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, despite pledging to make it a pariah over its shocking human rights record and for its involvement in the murder of Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi. That was all tossed aside as Biden fist-bumped Mohammed bin Salman as he tried to repair relations between the two nations and to get the Saudis to commit to increasing oil production so the high prices would come down. What did the Saudis think of that? And by extension, Biden? Not much. Oil production group OPEC, with the Saudis as its de facto leader, decreased output by 2 million barrels a day just ahead of the peak winter season. Saudi Arabia is picking its friends. It seems the US is not one of them.
Do you think it's time for the U.S. to rethink its relationship with Saudi Arabia?
Yes, and by the way, let's get straight why I went. I didn't go to one about oil. I went about making sure that we made sure that we weren't going to walk away from the Middle East. We should, and I am, in the process when this House and Senate gets back, they're going to have to. There's going to be some consequences for what they've done with Russia.
What kind of consequences? Menendez says suspend all arms sales. Is that something you'd consider?
I'm not going to get into what I'd consider and what I have in mind, but there will be consequences.
But before that happens, the Saudis sunk the boot in. It confirmed a report by the Wall Street Journal that the Biden administration asked Saudi Arabia to delay the cuts until after the midterms to limit political damage if gas prices increased. The Wall Street Journal quoted unnamed Saudi officials as describing the move as a political gambit by Biden ahead of the vote. In an editorial, the Journal posed this point. If Donald Trump had asked the Saudis to delay a cut in oil production until after the midterms, as the Journal reports Biden did, Democrats would have accused him of inviting foreign election interference. The official line from the Saudis was that it declined the request and defended its output cut by saying all OPEC decisions are based on economic forecasts and needs.
Saudi Arabia is not siding with Russia. Saudi Arabia is taking the side of trying to ensure the stability of the oil markets, which benefits consumers and producers alike. We have been doing this for decades. We try to make sure that we don't have erratic swings in prices.
I've been critical of the Saudis before, particularly when it comes to its poor human rights record, but Biden ends up with egg on his face here, again. And I'm not entirely sure what the point of this escalation is. It'll upset the Saudis, it'll give fuel to his Republic opponents, and if pushing back is an attempt to blame someone else for America's domestic gas predicament, well, isn't that an own goal? Because all it does is highlight America's own vast energy resources, which, according to the American Petroleum Institute, includes about 90 billion barrels of oil and about 300 trillion cubic feet of gas that's still untapped. Biden said in a Washington Post editorial before that Middle East trip that he wanted to start a new and more promising chapter of America's engagement there. 3 months later, he threatens Saudi Arabia with consequences. And if a consequence is to limit arms to the Saudis, which is America's biggest customer and is something Biden has threatened to do before, well, that could backfire too, because maybe Biden has forgotten how much aid and assistance the whole Western alliance gets from the Saudis. According to the OECD, it's one of the largest providers of official development assistance in the Gulf region. And Biden should be careful with the pushback as relations between Russia, China, and Saudi Arabia become warmer and warmer. But then again, as Obama said, don't underestimate Joe's ability, etc., etc.
Wow, so I want to start by saying, wow, I saw that video a couple of times, obviously, but I thought he didn't want the announcement of the cutback to happen until after the midterms, and they were requesting, the Biden administration was requesting that they don't cut production until after the midterm. So I do want to correct that. In either cases, they're both bad, right? Because what are they doing? They want to hold on to the deception game until after the midterms, until after you've casted your vote and after they've suckered you into supporting them if you're a Democrat, right? So pretty fascinating. Everything that guy said there was pretty fascinating, the contrast, right? And it's exactly what we know. We know right now that we are struggling. We have oil, we have natural gas that we can tap into, but we choose not to. Talk about shooting yourself in the foot. I really don't understand how this administration can continue function with the policies that it's going on. And I don't understand how the media isn't grilling him, because this affects everybody. Inflation affects everybody. It doesn't just affect a handful of people. Now, the only reason that I can think of that these people don't care, and when I say these people, I'm talking about the media and the left, which are supposed to be there to expose this stuff, is because they're part of the rich elitists, right? Where inflation has a really, really minimal impact on them, right? They, so what? Groceries go up an extra $600 a month for them. Gas goes up an extra $200 for them. Who really cares when you're making, $1 million every single month, or, whatever high estimate that you have, right? Who cares at that point? It doesn't really affect them that much. And you have all these types of investments and so on and so forth. So they don't really care. It doesn't affect them. And I know that because, you know what? My wife showed me a video of, and I've mentioned this before, of rich people in Venezuela where socialism and the impacts of socialism doesn't affect them. She showed me recently an island, I forget the name of the island, beautiful beach, yachts, alcohol, music, party going on. It looked like I was looking at Miami South Beach, to be quite honest with you. I got so frustrated because I know that there's also rich people in Cuba that are in with the Cuban government. They're not affected. They're not touched by the communism. Why? Because they're in good with the government. So I told my wife, I said, how's this possible? And she goes, these are the rich elitists that it doesn't impact. And I go, wow, it just amazes me. So here we have that same type of thing going on, where you would think these people, if they really were interested in the regular, average, everyday American, they would be exposing this. But no, instead they cover water for them, right? I've had several I've read several media articles where they say that inflation is actually good for you. Let's take a look at that. So in this article right here, we're looking at an article from CNN, and this was, now here's the interesting part. Remember in previous segments I've told you time is your best friend. Time is gonna reveal who's telling the truth and who's lying, right? And so this was done December 1st, 2021, so almost a full year ago, right? About a month and change shy from an exact year. And the headline here is why inflation can actually be good for the everyday American and bad for rich people. So they're trying to spin it. Why would they be trying to spin it? Why? Because obviously they want to protect their guy. They want to protect their political party. Listen, I have been in financing for the past 24 years, and never once have I ever heard up until this facade that inflation could be good for somebody. But let's go ahead and read into the article, and let's see what this person has to say. Allison Moreau, I'd like to, CNN business analyst apparently, or I don't know what she is, but let's read it here. So it says, no one likes paying for more stuff. That's why inflation, especially the sharp price increases we've seen in recent months, feel like a dirty word. Okay, so right now it feels like a dirty word. It's not actually dirty, it just feels like it, right? But on the whole, inflation can actually be a good thing for many working class Americans, especially those with fixed rate debts like a 30-year mortgage. That's because wages are going up, which not only empowers workers, but also gives them more money to pay down debt. Plus, in this case of mortgage, your monthly payment will be the same, but your house will increase in value. And many of the people taking a bath when prices rise are higher net worth people who hold the vast majority of the government bonds. Now, first of all, this is a long-term type of thing. Most Americans are not looking down past, the next year. We're pretty much, the regular average every day goes month to month, day to day, week to week, right? They're not going, decade to decade, right? So it's absolutely absurd. Now, also here, okay, your mortgage is at a fixed rate. What if it's not? What if it's a variable, right? Then what? Doesn't tackle that. Now, even if your mortgage is fixed rate, which mine is, yeah, your paycheck could go up. All right, that's in the event that you get a new job. You may have a salary increase, sure, because that typically happens when you go from one company to another company. If you're just starting out, maybe you don't have a mortgage, but if you're just starting out, it doesn't really function, right? Let's say if you're doing a minimum wage type of a job, yeah, you're going from $11 maybe to $15, maybe $20, but who then pays for that increase, right? The mom and pop shop that has to pay that extra dollar, that extra money, where do you think they're going to make up the money? They're going to increase the prices. Then who does that affect? Consumer. It's a merry-go-round. They connect to each other, right? So what this lady's saying here is absolutely absurd. But let's go ahead and keep reading. Let's go ahead and keep digging into the cover-up. It says here, the trouble is you're not going to feel the upside immediately. There is light at the end of the tunnel. It's just that it could be a couple of years. That's absolutely true. You're not going to see it. It'll be more than a couple of years, right? And here goes how inflation favors debtors. The immediate benefits of inflation to everyday people are less tangible than the drawbacks. You feel the sitting of your grocery bill and the gut punch of filling up your gas tank less palatable, but still significant in the dwindling burden of your debt. Now, let's just contrast that to what we finished reading just a little while ago. Okay, let's say your wage does go up. Okay, your mortgage stays the same, but if your gas and food are going up a significant amount, your raise, which is typically, like, if you're not switching jobs or positions, your raise is like 3% on average. If you're exceptional, you may get 4 to 5. Those are rare. And if you're less than that, which companies sometimes find an excuse to give you less than the 3%, it could be 1 or 2%, right? So then how does that work? How does your 3% on average raise work when inflation is 8-9%, right? So listen, It's just absolutely absurd. But let's keep going here. How inflation favors debtors. It goes down and it explains a whole bunch of stuff here that is, again, long-term, a potential long-term benefit. It's not even a guaranteed. And a lot of people are more than likely due to the, listen, let's say right now you get a new mortgage right now. You buy a new house. What's the average? I think the Fed's raised it to almost 7% at this juncture. You're paying for almost a 5, 6, 7% interest rate on a mortgage. How is that going to help you? Okay, let's say you refinance. Let's say 5 years from now things normalize. Okay, then what? Then you have to refinance. Yeah, you could get a lower rate. Then you have to add on the closing costs, right? And so on and so forth. And that cuts into your equity. So I don't understand. I don't understand it. But the point of this matter is that they're giving you a facade. They're selling something to you that you're not going to see right now in hopes that you could potentially see it later, just so that you're not blaming this current administration and this current president. Okay? But let's just look at it from another perspective, right? Maybe it's not that inflation might be good for you. Maybe it's just that you need to lower your expectation. These people actually came out with an article telling you that you live too good, and maybe you should lower your expectations of what it is. So don't go and build that extra room in the house, or that extension, or that pool in the backyard. Hey, don't get that nicer car. Lower your expectation, lower your standard of living. The Washington Post actually wrote this and posted it. I mean, it doesn't surprise me, right? Because the Washington Post is as corrupt and leftist as you can get. I mean, they are actually they're more an extension of the Democratic Party than they are an actual newspaper, right? Here it goes. Washington Post. Opinion. Here's the key word. It is an opinion, so it's not a fact. A lot of you guys need to realize that some of these people, right, they post op-eds, right? So you guys need to pay attention to that. But here's the opinion. Don't rant about the short-staffed stores and the supply chain woes. Try to lower your expectation. I'd like to know what this person's salary is. I'd like to know how they're lowering their expectation. Are they going down to the tofu menu versus the filet mignon? I don't know. But all I do know is a lot of these leftists, what they do is rules for thee and not for me type of thing. But nonetheless, how can you possibly tell the American people to change their way of living when it's unnecessary to, right? These policies, these issues are brought down because of these policies that are in place. It's not that, hey, something really bad happened and we have no control. Listen, there was a pandemic. We shut down a lot of things, but at the end of 2020, when certain states had opened up and things were normalizing, we can see things again normalize and pick back up. But because these people took it the extra mile with the pandemic and they kept things shut down and they kept on with the masks, and then they went to the vaccine mandates, and then people started quitting their jobs or retiring because they refused to get the jab, and so on and so forth. And all of these things that put into it, right? Pumping more money into it. Then you've got the money being sent, the billions being sent to you. All of these things have contributed to it. The refusal of trying to once again become energy independent, right? All of these issues have culminated to these to where we're at today. And for these people to tell you to lower your expectation, no. How about we increase our expectations and demand more from our political leaders on both sides of the aisle? Because I know that these Democrats, they can't pass bills without some Republican support, and they've had that in certain cases. So we need to demand more, not just from the Democrats. Democrats, you guys should be demanding more from your political leaders, absolutely. But we as Republicans should also be demanding our leaders. Our leaders should not be going in with crazy policies and crazy laws and crazy bills and so on and so forth. We need to demand more. Stop trying to lower our expectations and increase your own abilities to perform for your constituents, right? Well, guys, that's basically what I have for you guys today. I hope you guys found this informative. Don't allow these people to keep lying to you. Demand more from our political leaders. Don't forget, it's very important for us to vote this coming midterm. Don't assume a red wave is coming. Let's vote like if we're behind the gun. Every single vote counts. Try to vote in person. Don't do the mail-in voting, because we know there's a lot of phony baloney stuff that can happen between the transportation of things. So go and vote in person if you're able to, guys. And until the next episode, take care. Peace out, and God bless America.